Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
All is well.
We're going to let Ray in here in a minute.
Okay, let him in.
Forgot to send him the link to our show. So, Ray, if you go back and watch this, my apologies.
You know, have you ever seen one of those shows that they are not one of those shows, but sometimes, a show is expecting a guest and that guest doesn't show up and then the host gets really flustered and they're like, "Well, we expected to have so and so here today on the show, but guess what? They never showed up." And so as a result, you're going to have to like listen to me, or they get some, guest that's like local, that's like the local guy that sells, cars in a crazy fashion.
Tacos on the
And
street.
yeah, he's like, I'm car cow, and I'm great. Good to be on the show. You always get some like lame guest when that happens, when the guest doesn't show up. But that's not the case. So our co-host is now on. Hey there,
Sorry, Ray.
co-host.
Hello, hello. No worries, no worries. I was like, "Where's the link?"
Where
Okay.
is
It
the
was not
Yeah.
link?
there.
Yes. Well, we can we all we all have our days. All
Yeah.
right.
No worries, no worries.
So we're talking about AI and HR unveiling the future. I think that was sort of the big umbrella that this topic fell under
Yeah.
when we did
And I'll
this.
show this.
Yeah.
Yep.
But really what this article was about was our predictions for what we were seeing in the HR space in 2024. And I think we were pretty on the mark when we talked about that in 2023. I don't think that there's anything that I've seen that we're missing. So I think that's a good pat yourselves all on the back, because we had good conversations that led us to that. So shall we hit the first one? So let's hit the first one.
Yeah.
Humanize AI interactions and stealth hiring. Well, we have seen just about with every AI tool that they are very lifelike.
Yeah. So true. I mean, I think the tools that we have been working with, the chatbots, the interview tools, where you go from, an AI interview from voice to text. All of those are starting to become better and better with each revision, and I think also even the tools that are being used out there to answer employee questions on policies and procedures, again, are also becoming better, and they're always available, which is the best part from an HR perspective for productivity purposes. So we think that as HR starts to get smaller and have less budget, which we're seeing daily, these AI tools are going to be a way for HR functions to to really provide better service to their employees.
For sure.
Yeah.
These tools really add a level of accuracy. And I say accuracy because it's really important, because I think chatbots and things like that in the past weren't super accurate, and you could get bad information and the information was old. But they're really, they're really accurate. And they are really, really up to date on information. And they're very, very, very humanistic in how they interact with people. And I think that's the generative nature of AI that's making these so good. And it's a tool like MebeBot, who we're partnering with, very, very good tool that does this. We added stealth hiring, where there's going to be hiring of opportunity, and we're seeing that. That always happens in a tight labor market. There'll be hires that you're not necessarily going to know about, that are going to be under the radar, and that's happening. So I think that one's pretty standard in this kind of a market.
And the other thing that we're starting to see, at least here in the tech market in Denver, is a lot of organizations are making, um, you know, an executive of AI as part of the organization, part of the C-suite. One of the tech firms here that's building the next generation, uh, uh, basically next generation space shuttle. Um, they're
Oh
using
wow.
so much. They're using so much AI in as they develop all of the systems that they've actually brought in a vice president of AI to oversee all of the work that is happening. So that's how important it is, for organizations.
Exactly. I mean, that is
Wow.
definitely something that we're going to see more and more of. Shifting tech landscape. I think this one is really interesting because this is happening right before our eyes. If you look at it, a couple things that have happened recently. So Cisco just announced that they're laying off a large number of people. I think it was somewhere between 5 to 6,000 people.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
part of that, or actually all of that, is not due from cost cutting. They actually said it is to really look at where their technical talent is and what is the work that they're focusing on. And it's all skills based. So if you didn't have the right skills, and they're re-looking at what products and things that they're going to be selling and be investing in, they're actually eliminating people because of skill mismatch. And they actually were really clear it wasn't for expenses. And then the other thing is, you're just seeing a lot of luster has come off the tech landscape, and tech jobs, where people who once said, "Oh my God, I'm in tech and it's great and this and that," they are now questioning, should I have been in tech? Should I have done something different? Because of so many
Mm.
layoffs, and so many things are happening, and the advent of AI in the space, and people are really questioning whether that was really a good decision on their part. So it is really shifting, and those things are happening in real time.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think we've had discussions about this around that, and the big one is, you know when we were at Cisco, we were used to, tight budgets and reevaluating, um, your decisions on resources on a year to year basis, and that's exactly what's happening with other what we would call, high flying tech firms, Meta, Apple, Microsoft, uh, you know, um, all of those firms, Amazon are now looking, they're mature tech firms that are looking at their resources on a year to year basis and making adjustments. So it's a totally different world out there from a tech perspective.
Hmm.
Streamlining HR operations. This is a biggie. So when I was in HR, one of the big things that we always used to talk about was core versus context. And for those of you who haven't heard that whole core versus context conversation in some time, or you've never heard it, what we're talking about is there's work that's core to the organization, those things that are really important in terms of development, in terms of sales, and things like that that are important and are the lifeblood for the organization. There are other things that may not be as important, such as accounts payable, such as some of the HR things, some of the finance things. And so, along with that comes this desire by corporations to save money, because right now, 2024 is expected to be the year of companies saving money as you take non-core work and you move it to an outsourcer. So we're seeing a lot of that, and we're picking up work associated with that core versus context debate, where work that companies don't want to do internally, like payroll, like benefits administration, um, a million other things, they're asking us to pick that up. So that's happening right now, and that's a real-time issue that we predicted would happen at the end of 2023, and that's going on, and it's pretty prevalent right now.
No, it's so true. I mean, we're starting to see so many. or we have seen of just a lot of HR talent that is out, looking for work, and a lot of it is because of the budget cuts, resource cuts that are happening, and and HR departments are getting smaller, and are being asked to do more with less, and we think that we can really help organizations, that have trimmed staff, that have decided not to hire for open positions, that we could kind of come in and help them, you know, get projects taken off your CHRO's desks and get them taken care of and get them done, and we're seeing that kind of work happen more and more in that market.
When I managed budget for many of the HR functions that I worked in managing the budget for the CHRO, one of the things that happens in discretionary times like this is sometimes you have more cash than you have headcount. And that seems really weird. But when you look at hiring a headcount, that is basically an in perpetuity cost, meaning
Mm-hmm.
you now put that person on the headcount plan. They're now getting a salary. They're now getting a bonus. They're now potentially getting stock. They're now getting benefits. You now have to allocate space for them if they're in the office. All of those things have a what I call the burden rate, or where they're all an expense. And so companies don't want to take on those expenses right now. So sometimes you have cash, and cash is better to be able to hire an outside firm, pay them for as long as you need the project, and then they come off. So it's a lot less expensive using an outside firm than it is bringing in a head to take that. And so we'll continue to see a lot of that.
Yep. Exactly. And on the next one on an M&A, I think that and we just responded to a reporter on this question. We are still in the early stages of using AI for M&A transactions.
Well, I think there's two ways to take that. So you answer. I think there's two ways to take this one. So the first one is like you're talking about, and you can finish your answer, but I just wanted to say, I think mergers and acquisition and AI in terms of how AI is doing it. And then the second one is the purchase of AI companies and consolidation in the market. So why don't you take both of those?
Yeah, I think the first one on using AI in transactions, I think we are starting to see, and we're starting to use AI in things like comparing policies, one company to another, comparing benefits, one company to another. Using comparing and identifying some of those gaps or differences, AI can definitely be used for that. Also in reviewing contracts, whether it's employment contracts, whether it's business contracts or sales or contracts, that's where AI can be useful for M&A transactions. But in other areas, it's got to be face to face. It's got to be when you're assessing talent, when you're assessing culture, when you're trying to figure out kind of where people fit in the new organization they're joining. All of those kinds of things. Really, it's going to be a kind of a collaboration and working with the other firm to get that done. So that's those are the areas where we see where AI can work and where AI can't work. On the second one, which we were talking about, is more on the consolidation and acquisition of AI firms. I think that there's going to be a lot of activity in that space. A lot of the PE firms that we work with and the information that we're getting from private equity firms, hedge funds, there's a lot of cash out there that they need to spend. And one of the areas where we think they're going to be spending it is on AI, organizations that are producing, developing AI products for organizations. I mean, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of that, but these AI firms that will be purchased are going to have to be heavily in the generative AI space or trending towards generative AI. I think if you're perceived more as a machine learning AI shop, less interest. And then the other thing is you have to be able to have good data and analytics come out of your tool. And then the other thing is that you'll have to link into other systems. So if you have a really good AI tool, but for instance, it won't hook up to your recruiting tool, your applicant tracking system, companies are not going to be interested in purchasing you unless you have the capability to link to an applicant tracking system for whatever potentially your AI tool does. So those firms that are not doing it right now are going to have a struggle. I mean, I had somebody talk to me twice in the last 2 weeks, and they have an interesting feedback tool. And he asked me, do you think you would be interested in partnering with us and doing something with this tool? And I said, no, I wouldn't, because the tool doesn't allow the feedback to be uploaded into any type of performance management tool. So you have to operate totally outside of that tool to do the feedback, which won't, flow into something like a Workday or a SuccessFactors. So for me, that would be a no. And that individual and that company is going to have to figure that out before somebody's going to really be interested in potentially purchasing them. So there are lots of things out there that need to be figured out before they move forward. But there's going to be a lot of that for those companies that have that nailed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No, good point. The next one on mental health focus. One of the things that we're starting to see more and more, from organizations is how to, make sure that that employees are healthy, that they're kind of, in their right mind, and managers have that responsibility also. So I think we're going to start to see more and more what I would call AI tools that do some of the, predictive analytics around, certain behaviors that are happening and how that can, almost predict potentially somebody, getting burned out. So a lot more focus, I think, in that space, but we still think it's very early times there. I mean, Heather or Jason, what do you think about that one?
I think recently I saw there were some studies that came out that while this mental health has been a growing focus for organizations, it appears that a lot of people are not taking advantage of that help or that offering.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you have to think about, why is that? Is it a sign of people feel like it's a sign of weakness if they get help? Because even with the generation that's coming into the workforce, you would think that they of all would take advantage of this. It's a
Yeah.
thing.
That's a Quiet Riot song, Mental Health, Bang Your Head. That's actually the full title of Bang Your Head. Mental Health, Bang Your Head. It's a great
Yeah.
Quiet Riot song. If you've never heard it, bang your head. But no, on this one, yes, I think that this is going to continue to be a priority. And when we looked at this a couple of months ago, we talked about this as it related to some very, very hot startups. Out of the, I think, 25 top startups that were listed in 2023 for 2024, almost 10 of them had a mental health focus. So we're still going to see this as being really, really important. And it's unfortunate to hear that people aren't taking advantage of it, Heather. I don't know what it is. They're busy or they think they can handle it on their own, but we'll continue to see this grow in importance.
Yeah. Nope, exactly. And the next one on the kind of the return to work.
Can we skip this? Oh my God, return to work.
I think I just had an article that popped up on my news feed, and the title of the article was, hold on, I can tell you, I've got it right here. I think the article is around a big concern. Job cuts are sending a chill through the remote work world. Okay, so so I think that the employers are saying you've got to be in the office. Employees are saying I want my flexibility, and that whole tug of war is continuing. And I think one of the things we had talked about earlier was if there was one thing that we could, you know, wave our wand and fix, it's this one. It's like the the end game is a hybrid workforce where you've got, and now, there you go. There's a
Mhm.
wand where you give employees flexibility, but you also want them to spend some time in the office. You don't want them to come in, swipe, get a cup of coffee, and go back home because that's happening too. So,
Mhm.
so yeah. So this one's a big one. Thoughts there, guys?
I don't want anybody to think I actually had a wand sitting on my desk. It's an Apple Pencil, so it does look like a wand, though. So I want to be
Looks
I
like
clear
a
was
there.
wand,
wondering.
man.
Um,
Looks like a
but
wand.
but on this one, I think that my issue with this is it's all the big companies are getting this press. So like the big companies are going after the remote workers who didn't really want them in the first place. So I've said this a bunch of times. If you're Meta, if you're Google, those kind of companies, you're going after the remote workers. For smaller companies, more, mid-sized companies, more smaller companies who have seen the remote work really work for them and it be an advantage for them in hiring, they're not going after the remote workers. It works out great for people. Look at Houston. Houston is using 25 less percent of the office space that it's used in the past because of there's more remote workers. And now they've just come to the conclusion that we're going to have to shift all of this office space that we have open to housing or do something different.
Mhm.
So,
Mm.
I mean, there
Yeah.
is um, a big segment of people that are not going to come back to the office. And this press on this is really about the bigger companies because that's what interests people. So I think that return to work is definitely over. I think hybrid has won, and that would be what I would say on this one. And if you want to hire great talent and you're a smaller to mid-sized company, you're going to use remote. And I still see tons of remote gigs listed. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
am not seeing remote really going away, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I mean, I took a sample this morning. I walked my three grandkids over to their elementary school here in front of my daughter's house, and whereas before I would have seen everybody out there, in uh, shorts, uh, yoga pants, workout pants. I mean, just very casual. Now, the people dropping kids off are, half of them are, you know, clearly going into the office, so versus, going back home and plugging in. So, so it's happening. And, yeah, this was going to be an ongoing challenge, and I think, the more employers threaten people with, hey, this is going to affect your performance review. This is going to affect your ability to be promoted. Um, those are not gonna end well in the war for talent because people will start to walk very quickly.
Mhm. Yep. Or not be interested at all.
It's right. So true. So
Yeah.
true.
Addressing ageism and
Mhm.
employee feedback. Okay, so I saw an interesting story about this just last week, and Verizon was actually talking about how they have um, very long tenured employees there, and they were actually really happy that they have an average tenure of their employees of almost 13 years,
Wow. That's
which
the average?
that's the
Mhm.
average tenure is 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they believe that that's a competitive advantage for them. And so I think we're starting to see that pendulum start to shift because there's been a number of articles and a number of studies about how um, staying longer in an organization and having long tenure is an advantage. And then also studies are showing that those workers that are more seasoned, and that's how I like to say it,
Mhm.
seasoned, are they get up to speed faster if you hire them for a new job. I hate to say this, so don't beat up the messenger. They're more reliable on some things, and they just have some skills that are useful that, of course, potentially younger workers don't have, and that's to be expected. So I think we're really going to see this conversation continue to grow. And just because you hit 49 doesn't mean that you're useless anymore, which I think that has been pretty much a
Phew.
standard view in the it's been
In
pretty
that
much a
tech space.
standard view,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
especially in the tech space, like, oh, you're
Oh, yeah. Oh,
49,
yeah.
you have no runway here,
Yeah.
get out, you're
Yeah.
a legacy employee,
That's
leave.
right. That's right. Yeah, I think the term that was used, we're gonna backfill that role with earlier in career employees, which is,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, exactly. So no, I think this was a big one. I think, like you said, half the challenge is showing up, and I think that that the more seasoned employees have a little bit more a better track record around that. But it's going to be a continual challenge on this one. And the other one too is, you know, because of a lot of different reasons, people haven't saved up enough for retirement, et cetera. And also being eligible for certain benefits, that's going up. So if you can't really start to claim, Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security till you're 70, guess what? Folks are going to be working longer and are going to be in the workforce. So you better be prepared
Mhm.
and take advantage of that resource as
Yeah,
an organization.
I
So
just saw a poll where it said 1 out of every 8 people who was retired said they have to go back to work because of
hmm
inflation. So
hmm
this one is definitely going to be gaining traction. And so I'm super excited. I think that we did a really good job when we
hmm
talked about these of really hitting on some
Yep.
things that are really happening real time in 2024. And we can help you work on any of these issues if you're seeing them internally in your organization. We're here for you, and we can definitely be a partner with you in helping think about some of these, and helping you, and essentially partnering you with AI as well too. It's a
Yep.
strong
No,
space
and
for us.
yep, and also a lot of organizations and HR associations are coming to us to ask about this and asking us to present on this topic. So clearly,
AI.
on AI. I mean, we're still getting a lot of requests. I mean, we got one, earlier this week for the LA HR Association, asking us to talk about this. So clearly, the HR community is interested. We've got a lot of really good data. So please let us know, and love to talk to you about this, and see how it affects your organization.
Heather, any parting words? Any final thoughts for us?
And the only other thing I was going to mention, and you and I discussed this morning, is that we're in the education phase. I feel like we are in the education phase where HR leaders are trying to learn and educate themselves on AI. I think for the most part, some or most have learned to get past the fear. Now they need to jump in and learn what is this all about? How is this applicable? Are we going to move forward with it or not? And that's where we can help as well, because we have that information to educate leaders on what's available, what's possible, what's not going to go away, what will may go away with AI.
The
Yep.
hype is definitely there. There's a lot of
Yep.
hype. The
Mhm.
hype hasn't necessarily transitioned yet to I'm actually going to be buying AI products for my organization,
Right.
and people are beginning to make money on that. I mean, there's money being made, but there is not the amount of money that's going to be made down the road, and that's going to be huge. So the hype is there. The commoditization of the AI product isn't necessarily there.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
we'll
Exactly.
see that. We thought we lost you.
I was
Yeah,
doing a disappearing act.
yeah,
That was
Push the wrong
good.
button.
right.
That was good.
I can
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, just like the hand, the magic hand pulling back that curtain.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
There's our contact information. I'm Jason at thrivehrconsulting.com.
And
You
then
are
yourself?
Heather.Simmons at
Mhm.
Thrive HR Consulting, and you are Ray at thrivehrconsulting.com. There's the feed. So
Yeah. Thank you for for listening and to our podcast and please let us know if we can help you with anything.
all right. Talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.